through stories with authors, narrators, and the amazing folks behind your favorite bookstores. So, grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's flip through the pages.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Covers and Pages podcast. My name is Rese Alisa, and Covers and Pages podcast is all about celebrating authors, narrators, bookstore owners, and book influencers who continue to empower this book space. So, if you heard my intro and you recognize the voice, and
That
if
was
you're
me.
watching,
I'm gonna jump in there and gonna come and claim that victory in the name of the Father,
that
the
was the
Son.
infamous Midnite Michael. Okay, and before we get into the conversation, let me read his amazing bio, and then we're gonna talk to him and get to know him a little bit. Okay. Midnite Michael is an audiobook narrator, voiceover artist, musician hailing from Huntsville, Alabama. You can hear his smooth, authentic, and seductive voice in a plethora of audiobooks he narrated for various authors and publishers that include Tantor Media, Podium, Daya, Penguin House, and B Audio. He has also voiced hundreds of television and radio ads for a wide range of clients, including Popeyes, Nike, ESPN, Circle, Kia, FIFA, the NBA, and Gatorade, among many others. And again, if you are watching and you look behind me, here are a few books that he has narrated himself. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Covers and Pages podcast, Mr. Midnite Michael.
What's going on?
Bow.
We need some sound effects for real. What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing tonight? It's great to be here. Love it. And like I said, that was me in the intro. No, I'm playing. And I
Mm-hmm.
just realized
Mm-hmm.
that those books are books I did. I dang. Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Shout out to
They
P
are.
Love, Mia. What up, though? A Blossom. Everybody.
Yes. All good books, if I should say so myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Indeed.
enjoyed them. So I when I first discovered you, I remember I made this post on Instagram about my favorite narrators, and people were in the comments were like, if you like this person, then you're gonna love Midnight, you're gonna love Midnight, you're gonna love Midnight. And I was like, who is Midnight? And my first introduction to you was Finding My Bodyguard, this book
Okay.
right here, everybody. This was my first introduction to him. And I was like, who that is in the back? Okay.
What you say?
And I just kind of went on a binge with listening to majority of your audiobooks that you narrated. So I would like to know what drew you to audiobooks.
What drew me to audiobooks? So I tell the story that, you know, it started with my now wife. But if I can go back even further, let me just acknowledge a couple of people and a couple of things. My mom, right, and again, if anybody who knows me for real, like we all sound the same. Like my mom, all the women and men, we sound almost exactly the same, right? And my mom was a great storyteller, right? And like when she read books, it was an event. You know what I mean? I can remember that was one of the dopest parts about growing up is like having her read to us sometimes. And so that always brought, that always fascinated me, being able to do that. Um, and then fast forward, like I said, to, when I started voice acting about 6 years ago now, reading or narrating audiobooks wasn't even on my radar. But that I met my wife at around the same time as I started my journey, and we talked on the phone a whole lot. And she was like, "You have an audiobook narrator voice," and I was like, "For real?" And she was like, "You should do one for me just to test it out." And I was like, "I forgot," but I still owe her a book. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. Like her just bringing it to mind. Right, I didn't pursue it, but a couple of years after that, like early 2021, I was an author reached out to me and said, "Hey, can you read this book for me?" And I was like, "Sure." Right, I had never done it before. Didn't know how hard it was. Didn't know anything about narrating or prepping audio. Nothing. I had no experience. So to
Oh,
say
you
that
went
was
into it blind.
cold, yeah, cold, just whatever, just raw, uncut. And but I will say this: coming out of it, I was a different person for sure when it comes to voice acting and narrating, because doing that let me know I could do anything I wanted to in this lane. So they started, the audiobook stuff started picking up, trickling in, I would say, in 2021, 2022. It wasn't in 2023 that, you know, I got into black romance and urban fiction. Excuse me, and that's when things just started picking up. Right, I had no idea that it was it was it could get this crazy. I had no idea. Like I said, I was just working, and I reached out to Lacey Laurel. This is kind of a touch point for me understanding like what the impact was. She was like, her and Ms. Ronnie, they told me, they was like, yo, they talking about you right now. You know what I'm saying, in the groups or whatever. And I was like, talking about who, me? Right? Because I had no idea, right? Because again, in this world, we just kind of focus on trying to get the job done, enjoying the process, and really doing the best that we can to kind of get this all stuff to get this all out. And so yeah, but when I heard that, I was like, wow. And then I started seeing more and more comments and things like that. But yeah, it was all about the work for me. But yeah, that's how I got started. That's what kind of propels me to this day. And just like, I really appreciate all the love and the support that I get from across the spectrum.
If you could go back to that day that you first auditioned for your first audiobook, what would you change now with everything that you have learned?
Probably wouldn't do it. No, I'm playing. It's auditioning. So it's funny. I didn't even audition for it, like my first audiobook, which is wild. Like she just found me on. I don't know how she found me, to be honest with you, but it was on site. Like, let's go. I want you to do this. You got the voice. Make it happen, right? But I will say this about my first black romance audition. And I tell this story. And shout out to Kaya Montague, who I love. I got to meet her a couple times. Um, that was my first audition, like one of her books. I auditioned for one of her books first, and she basically, I tell people that she shut me down, but in essence, what she did was she challenged me, right? She challenged me to become a better version of myself that I didn't think existed, right? Because my whole thing was I just didn't want to be corny, right? Because you know, me being honest, right? Like I didn't really understand black romance and urban fiction. It was always like back in college, Eric Jerome Dickey, just like just hearing those names, like man, like I never took it serious, right? And so if I was gonna do it though, I was like, I ain't want to be corny, right? I ain't want to be the guy that people thought of as like, oh man, whatever, man, that's he funny, right? And so she challenged me to be a better version of myself, and I wasn't ready at the time to step up to that challenge. But I appreciated that though because it helped me for the next opportunity. Be more focused, be more intentional about how I approached it. And so, like I said, when I auditioned for that, I was ready. And then, from that point forward, it became, just opportunities start coming in, right? More than, auditions started coming in, which is crazy, right? It was kind of backwards, but I'm certainly thankful for it.
So, how do you prepare for a new book you're about to record?
So that's a it depends, right? I spend, a great deal of time early in each book. So a lot of people do prep, extensive prep work. They have preppers. They prep it themselves, right? They, coordinate with their their co-narrators, that kind of thing, which I do, right? But a lot of my prep, a lot of my, you know, learning the book, learning the characters, it starts early in the early chapters, my early interactions with those characters and with the words and with the author's, cadence, that kind of thing. Just trying to get familiar with that, right? Because we can do like, I tell people I do read books. I read before I, record sometimes. And that's cool, right? But excuse me, getting behind this microphone and starting to read the book and trying to figure it out is a different thing than sitting by yourself and just sitting down and reading a book, right? So that dance, uh, that early relationship building, right, in chapters 1 through 2, 3, something like that, that's really important, right? Because that's where I kind of understand who the characters are, what their DNA is, how I can infuse their DNA with my DNA, and just kind of build, that universe as we get through the book. So yeah, I won't say heavy prep work, but there is some prep work. I do read books, but a lot of my, like I said, discovery, if you will, is as I read through the first few chapters, I build who those characters will be long term throughout the book.
Have you ever had to turn down a book after you maybe just read, after you got the email, they let you know what the book about? Have you ever was like, nah, I don't think I'm messing with that?
Have I? I rarely say no. I will have to ask why. my manager wife because I don't know. I think I've done everything that's been um, submitted or requested of me for the most part. It's rare that I say no. I may have to start doing it more because it's getting crazy now. But yeah, no, I think everything that's come across my desk has really been a good opportunity. Everything's an opportunity, but I just trying to make it the best it is, making the best of it, I should say. But yeah, I don't think I've ever turned anything down, which is kind of sad. But no, everything I've done everything I've been offered for the most part. Yeah.
What would be like a reason you would turn an audiobook down
Um,
or a book down to narrate?
I don't know. It depends on where I am. Like schedule is number one thing at this point in time. In the beginning, it was like I did everything. Right. I guess I did everything because I felt like I had to. Right. Now it's like okay, what's that's great. Being able to work better, work more efficiently, and do everything. But I think balancing my life versus the narration is very important to me right now. So I think schedule right and accommodating my life and things of that nature is number one at this point in time. So if I turn anything down now, it will be chiefly because of that. Excuse me.
How do you approach voicing different characters? So, well, this is a two-part question. So, how do you approach voicing different characters, especially like voicing women? And then
Mm.
also, how do you approach voicing the smut scenes? Because some of the smut scenes in the book can get very, very smutty.
That's it's again. I mean, it's reality, right? So you have to take you got to insert yourself. Well, I guess no pun intended, but you got to insert yourself right into all of this stuff that you're doing, right? You got to really lean into it, right? So I'll answer the second question first. It's you in the booth, it's going down, right? You and these characters, like you're making, and again, if it's just me, right? I'm both, right? Right. So I'm drawing on all my experiences. Um, yeah, and just trying to create something that seems and feels and sounds right, organic, natural, nothing crazy, not anything like you you see some well some people kind of take it too far. Nah, just you kind of have you measure it right, what I'm saying, based on who the cat, if it's a, if it's a if the, okay, so if the setup is the guy is he's a cold-blooded killer, right? But he's also like a billionaire, right? You know what I'm saying? In the same space, which is amazing. Um, right? You expect a certain energy, like in the bedroom, right, or in the kitchen, or in the shower, when this dude comes to the plate. You know what I'm saying? He's probably a little edgy, a little rugged. You know what I mean? So you have to factor that into it, right? He's probably, because he's a billionaire. He's like, I control this. You know what I'm saying? So it can be a lot of factors that help determine how I portray a guy. And for the females, it's the same kind of thing, right? Um, they're not y'all aren't always delicate when it comes to that, right? So it's not like you're you're the, I guess, the secondary part. It's a very mutual thing, right? Two people bringing both of their energy to the situation and just trying to capture that in an honest and organic way. As far as like female voices and other voices that aren't, that don't kind of fall in my range, really, it's not even about trying to sound like a woman, right? It's given the idea that there's a woman speaking right now, right? And like I said earlier, excuse me, all of us sound alike. My aunts, my mom, my grandma when she was alive, we all sound alike to some extent, right? And so I draw from that kind of experience, even pulling from my wife's voice, right? You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot of things that you can shape the DNA of a female without sounding like a female, I think, right? And so I try to lean into that as much as I can without trying, like I said, because again, me trying to sound like a woman for an extensive part of a chapter, right? That's like, man, DNF, right? You know what I'm saying? Because
Right.
people are going to check out because it's not real, right? So I try to maintain as much of the integrity of this voice when I place it in a certain space to do other types of voices.
So that brings me to my next question. Have you ever, in like you was just in the middle of just narrating a book, and you just saw something like, bro, what the fuck these writers be? these authors be like, why? Like, you ever had maybe like a question moment, like, man, y'all authors got to come on and be more realistic.
Let me turn that question on you. What do you think? Like, ask yourself.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Sometimes, especially when they describe this perfect man, I'm like, man, that man don't live in Houston.
Okay, but I take that and I hear that and I'll challenge that from the standpoint of, all right, we have to take a lot of this with a, you know, this is leaning into a world of fantasy, right? You know what I'm saying? This
Mm-hmm.
shaping a universe that probably is never going to exist anywhere, right? For, you know, for us to really experience in reality, right? So at first, yeah, I used to do it all more times than I do now. I'm like, man, this is crazy. Yeah, a billionaire killer, right? You know what I'm saying? Who takes care of his grandma and takes her to church every Sunday. I mean, I guess that exists somewhere, right? But I mean,
Right.
and he's, you know, he's never been, he's been doing it for 20 years, never been to jail, nothing like that. I'm like, come on, man, this guy, come on, he's Batman, I guess. All right, but yeah, no, I do stop. I'm like, man, this is crazy. But at the same time, I appreciate, you know, the challenge even, right, of making that a real thing with the words, right, with the voice, because it can get to a point where it's like, what are they talking about, right? But I don't want people to check out once they start hearing uh, the, I guess, you know, the fantasy of it, if you will. I want people to still stay engaged beyond that, right? So yeah, it can be challenging. It used to be more challenging, but now I get it, right? I get that. You know, this is, we live in fantasy, right? We're living in fantasy worlds, right? And that are we draw from reality, but it's a lot of fantasy in here too. So we try to keep it measured in how we approach that, and just keep it moving forward.
What do you think is the most misconception people have about audiobook narration?
I don't even, that's a good question. Let me think about it for a second. Um,
I know one is, and I'm not trying to shake the table, and I'm not trying to bring this up, but every so often on social media, someone just digs up this whole conversation of audiobooks are not books.
oh,
They're not considered reading, you know.
well, I,
And I always say, when you say things like that, you are kind of taking away the talent from the narrator and the work that they have put into recording a book.
right. You know, people are, you know, have, you know, every right to feel how they feel about it. I just think, you know, your interpretation of it is what makes sense. Like, for example, Ms. Ronnie, like, I met her at a BRBF and she told me, like, you guys, I read through y'all, you know what I mean? And I thought that was, you know, a powerful statement, right? You know what I mean? Because she can't read, you know, books anymore. You know what I mean? It's hard for her. So us doing what we do is her reading. You know what I mean? To me, and so I value um, the importance of audiobook narrators. Right? Again, people are, you know, are free to feel how they want to feel about it, but I think there's an important space for us when it comes to, you know, certain, you know, segments and demographics in the listenership, if you will. So yeah, I think I consider it reading for sure. But again, that's my opinion.
So, how do you handle the feedback and criticism from some readers when that's if you see it, right? Because I know in certain, there are a lot of audiobook groups on social media, and if a reader, if they don't like one little thing that you're doing, they is ripping you apart.
Yeah, I mean it's out there, and you know I think, you know, you'll hear other narrators talk about this. Is that's not why we do it. You know what I'm saying, right? In terms of, you know, getting praise or, you know, whatever the case may be, right? We appreciate it for sure. Don't get me wrong, but we know it comes with criticism too, because everybody's, you know, everybody is again free to their opinion for sure. Um, for us, like I said, you know, it's hard for me to, I don't know, like I'm not gonna say take it serious, but it's like, you know, I appreciate everybody's feedback, but I,
Mm-hmm.
you know, my job is I get in that booth and I go to work. You know, I'm gonna do that regardless because I appreciate what I do. It's a challenge of getting better every time up. You know, every book, every you know podcast, whatever the case may be, it's a chance to get better at something that we're doing, right? So I appreciate it. You know, I appreciate the feedback, but again, what drives me the most is trying to be the best at this. Every time we get in that booth and go to work and get behind this mic, and I'm pretty sure every narrator you talk to will give you the same answer. We're close to that.
Have you ever struggled with the character's voice?
No, because I don't. This right here, right? I stay as close to this as possible. I'm not gonna, because again, you have to, like, if I start like trying to sound squeaky or something, like, with a main character, for example, and that character lives throughout the book, that's gonna be hard to do on my end. First of all, and secondly, how long will a listener be able to take that? You know what I'm saying? Because this is not something that's natural. You see what I'm saying? So I much of what I do in terms of voice variation, that kind of thing, is based on this, right? I stay as close. I say it to, I equate it to, like, a Mariah Carey versus a Layla Hathaway, right? They both have range. It's just different, right? And I live in my range, just like they live in their range, and they're great at their range. You see what I'm saying? And so, yeah, my approach is really keeping it honest as I build these voices and these characters.
What other genre you think you'll be interested in narrating? And if I can answer that real quick, I think you'll be fired on a good thriller. Because I really think you would scare the hell out of somebody.
Yeah. So I actually started out doing autobiographies primarily. Um, that was like first couple of years. I did autobiographies, and I did a couple of historical fiction books. So yeah, I was doing that in political commentary, religious books, that kind of stuff. Right, it just seemed to make sense. So I was doing that kind of stuff. I had, again, and then again, this is no slight to urban romance, urban fiction, and black romance. I just didn't pay attention to it like that until it landed in my lap with Kaya's audition, right? And she was like, "You could kill this, but just give me this again." And and that kind of played out how it was. But yeah, but those genres, that's where I cut my teeth. To your point about thrillers, I would love to do more thrillers. I did a couple of those as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm open to any genre for the most part. Yeah.
So, kind of, I want to know like the behind the scenes of it. Like, how much editing and retakes like typically go into
Yeah, I
narrating a
don't want
book?
to know that. Yeah, I don't want to know all
Yes, we
that.
do. That's why we're here.
Yeah, I don't want to know that. I, you're welcome, Tam. Yeah, I just try to stay in my lane. So I would speed up a D enough. I feel you. But nah, what goes into all of that, man, is so again, performance wise, it's about pacing yourself, right? Not trying to do too much at once. It's kind of hard right now because again, a few of us are really kind of pushing it as it relates to being overworked versus like really busy, right? You know what I mean? We're kind of towing that line, but we have to pace ourselves for sure and just make sure we're getting enough rest, eating enough, staying hydrated, et cetera, to be able to have the energy to give good performances over a span of days for the books that we do are blessed to narrate. When it comes to you know recording, editing, that kind of thing, I mean there are various ways to do it. For a while, excuse me, I would just record straight through and include all the mistakes and go back and edit them out, um, which is kind of laborious, right? Because again, it takes a while to record and it also takes a while to edit. So that's kind of two jobs, right? So another option that I'm trying to get better at is called punch and rolling, right? You fix the mistakes as you go, and that is proven to be a little bit more efficient in terms of my workflow, and just establishing a certain level of efficiency in terms of the performance too, right? You know what I'm saying? Because when I was editing, right, I didn't care. I would just mess up. I could mess up like 6, 7 times in a row. I'm like, whatever, I get it. I'll edit it, right? You know what I'm saying? I'll edit that out. So when I'm doing punch and roll, I'm like, I don't want to spend 17 minutes trying to record this one line, right? You know what I'm saying? I want to do 37 takes, which is a real thing. I want to do all these takes. So it's helped me kind of be better at my performance, right? Being more accurate in terms of reading the content, just so we can make the process a little bit easier, right? Still like staying true to the performance, not doing it not sacrificing, the execution of the performance, but also just being mindful of, okay, let's be a little bit more efficient at how we do this. So yeah, but yeah, that's basically it. You know what I mean? It's really about really, having good energy coming into the booth. When we step out of the booth, making sure that, we have good, good markers and things of that nature to edit. But yeah, I mean, it's a process. But like I said, it's something that we're very adept at, and I think a lot of us really love.
Have you ever wanted to walk away from it?
Walk away
Or have
from.
you ever had have you ever had thoughts like I think this is just taking too
No,
much of my time. I don't have time to spend time with my family.
nah. Um, this is. I didn't even know I needed this, to be honest. You know what I mean? I tell people when I started, I had all these visions of grandeur, right, and all these kind of things. Like I wanted to be like Morgan Freeman and James Earl Jones because people said I sounded like them, right? And I was like, and when I first started, I was thinking I was supposed to get that kind of work, right? I was fresh out, I ain't had no Shawshank Redemption on my resume, no Star Wars, nothing like that. I was coming up, coming off the bench, you know what I mean? Excuse me. And so that was where I was when I started. Where I am now, it's about, I think I just heard a quote somebody said about, the longer you do this kind of stuff, um, the less you want to be like the people you looked up to, right? And that's kind of where I am now, right? I'm trying to get a signature Midnite Michael sound, right? Something that establishes me as I'm him, or that's him, that's Midnite, or whatever the case may be. How we hear James Earl Jones, how we hear all these great voices that have played out over the years, like Regina King when she does something, right? That's Regina King, right? You know what I mean? Just, that's where I am right now. Kind of, it was great to have them as like kind of, you know, to idolize and look up to, but now it's like I got to kind of create my own lane, my own space.
That brings me to my next question. Do you ever get recognized by your voice?
At So it was funny at the conferences I did, right? Because I was like I'll be calling somebody like, hey, and then like 5 or 6 people turn around. It's like, oh, that's Midnite Mike, So that was wow. But that's really the only time it happened. I was at a restaurant one day or somewhere, and the Popeyes commercial I did came on, and I think I was talking to the bartender, and she looked at the TV. She was like, is that you? And I was like, yeah, I did that. So that kind of stuff happens a little bit, but not not too regularly. Maybe one day that'll change, but not right now.
So I want to go down the Black Romance Book Fest road and the Indie Love road. When you got there and you just saw everything and people just coming up to you telling you how much they love you, how much they appreciate you. After everything was over and you went home and you was able to process all of that, like how did that make you feel?
Keep getting better, right? It really did. Like I told people when I was there, like they would come to the table like, we love like what you do, and that was like, because again, like we work. This is a lonely thing that we do, right? And so we don't always get that energy, right? Again, social media, it is what it is in terms of the feedback we read, and we really do appreciate that. But to have it surrounding you like that and taking you in and embracing you, you know what I mean, for those few days at each one of those events, it's like, man, it's really real. You know what I'm saying? And I got to be better for these people. You know what I'm saying? The authors, the listeners, the content creators, right? We got to be better for y'all. You know what I mean? Because y'all deserve it. We For holding us up, right, and putting us in these places, right? We didn't think we would ever be. Like I never thought I'd be Midnite. I never thought I'd be Midnite Michael, right? The audiobook narrator. I was trying to be, Quincy Jones with this. You know what I'm saying? I was trying to be somewhere else, Pharrell and them. You know what I mean? And so, so I was trying to do that with the music, and now we over here. And so for everybody, and this is for everybody, for holding us down, and holding us accountable too, for being, what y'all say we are. You know what I'm saying? Because we're trying to exceed what y'all say we are and be even better than that every time up. So yeah, like we love the energy, and I talked to Miles there. I talked to Alex, Wesley. We love the energy, but it's nothing. It doesn't make us content where we at. We're trying to get better and take everything to the next level for y'all.
Do you have any talents outside of narration?
What you think? Yeah, I do. I'm
I
playing.
know. Okay, the people want.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
asking
I
for the
do.
people.
No, I do. So, like I said, I just alluded to it a little bit.
You
I
did.
I low key wanted to be. Um, I've always wanted to be a singer and musician, and win a Grammy and that kind of thing. So I put out an EP a few years ago and it was like it was dope because I never thought I could do it. That's like this. I never thought I could do it. It was one of those things where I was like, man, people saying you good, you good. I was like, I never believed. It was always that imposter syndrome that we deal with, right? And I was like, man, I don't know. And the feedback I got from it was crazy. I didn't need anything more than that. You know what I mean? So I appreciated that. So yeah, I'm a musician. I cook pretty well. Let's see. I used to hoop a little bit, but not no more. But yeah, but music, now I'm more into rapping now. Making beats. Shout out to my man Nori and Love. We got to get up. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's I really love uh, all creative avenues, but especially music and narration and voice acting.
Yeah, I want to share a small little story. When
Here we
I
go.
first met Midnight at Black Romance Book Fest, I think I had just got done taking a picture with Wesley, and I don't know where I was going, why I was going in that direction, but I think God just led me. God just was like, I'm just push my child this direction. And I was just walking, do, 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 do. And I so happened to look to what my right. I looked down, I saw two beautiful black people, okay? I looked at that name, I did a double take. Y'all would have thought I saw a coupon for free Chick-fil-A for a whole year the way I stopped at that table and grabbed my phone and was like, call my friend, like, girl, here go Midnight. He right here. You got to get to the table. Hurry up.
It's
And y'all,
wild.
they was looking, his wife was laughing. She was killing herself laughing. Midnight was like,
It was midnight.
uh,
But and that taught me a lesson too, right? You know what I mean? Never take yourself too seriously, but also give space for people who like appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? Because I have a hard time with that. You know what I'm saying? I that whole at Black Romance. I'll tell you a story about Black Romance. I was checking in, and the voice thing, right? I was checking in, right? And I'm in go. I'm trying to like let me get my bag. You know what I mean? I'm trying to get my little T-shirt. You know what I mean? And figure out where we need to be. And so that's what my mind is. And like like I said, some people were kind of walking around and they was like pointing a little bit. And then I got to the table and the lady that I can't remember her name, we actually had a conversation afterward. But she was like, name please or whatever. And I was like, and I was in this, I'm Midnite Michael, or you can go Jeremy or whatever, right? And my wife's like, no, you Midnight, right? And she was like, no, you Midnight, right? So I was like, okay, boom, what I got to do is sign. She was like, can you say my name again? Right? She kept saying that, right? And like, so I was so caught up in the process of just trying to check in, I didn't appreciate the moment. You know what I mean? And I feel bad about that for her because that was her moment. You see what I'm saying? So when you walk to the table, like I was still in that place of like, man, this ain't even real. But then I got it. You know what I'm saying? When y'all started coming over and taking pictures and like just losing it, right? And I thought that was the dopest thing. So I'm learning to appreciate those moments because the moments are, yeah, they're for us, but they're really big for y'all too. So we have to really, really appreciate and understand that as we go into those moments.
yeah. Because this is an outlet for a lot of us, reading and listening to books, and especially with everything that's going on in the world, it just feels good to just kind of escape everything that's going on and just live in a whole another world. And then for some people like myself, books have truly saved their life in so many different ways. So when I going back to my question about the audiobooks aren't books, it's very disappointing to hear because you don't know what author or what narrator has saved somebody from, maybe they had one foot on a cliff and one foot off. You know what I mean? So I appreciate you. I keep telling you that. I don't know why you acting like you ain't that dude. Okay, you
I'm
the
not. Don't do
Midnight
that.
Michael.
Can I thank you? I appreciate it. See, I did. I did it. I said thank you. But if I can say this real quick, one thing too that we have to acknowledge is the origin stories, the past of the authors and how they got into the world of writing, what they write, right? So when you talked about like is some of this ridiculous, right? Not only do I appreciate the fantasy of it, I also don't know. again, we don't always know where the author was coming from or where they were at the time that they wrote that thing, right? You know what I mean? So again, to your point about just appreciation, also giving ourselves grace, right? That's why we give everybody else around us grace to understand this is a process for all of us. You know what I'm saying? And we just got to make the best of it in whatever input we provide into that process, for sure.
Also, with me, and I hope I don't get emotional about it,
Here we go.
just knowing that for one, there are not a lot of black narrators in this space, and to see the ones that are in this space and they killing it, I love it. I love it. And then also just being able to connect with you all. Like I would have never imagined over a year ago me reading Finding My Bodyguard. Like, oh, I love Midnite Michael. I love Mouse. I love Wesley Lawrence. Whatever, whatever. To now be sitting here having a conversation with you, man. You somebody got to pinch me, okay? I'm gonna go cry in the car after I end this live.
Really. And and so again, that's me. Like going participating in these festivals and conferences and other events, right, helps me gain a better perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hear more stories about what this has done for them, right? Audiobooks and that kind of thing. And again, like I think the community of narrators is really cool too, right? You know what I mean? Just us, having that, having the relationships, knowing each other now. Like we were always aware. Like for example, I've done a number of books with Lauren Nichols, right? You know what I mean? And I didn't meet her until BRBF, and like it was she was like the person I worked with, when doing these books and hearing her voice. I was like, man, you real, you know what I'm saying? And so you're a real person, and I think that's all our thing, right? We're just real people doing regular people things in these books. You know what I'm saying? To us, it's we do it the best of our ability for sure, and like having the feedback and experiencing BRBF and Indie Love and what have you, that gives us more incentive and impetus to be more determined to be better at it every time up, man. So yeah, but just meeting the narrators and understanding like we can laugh and understand we're real, and
Mm-hmm.
that kind of feeds into everything that we do on a regular basis for sure.
I love that. I love that. So we had I asked Instagram to send me some questions, but I'm going to address YouTube first. So Miss K would like to know what's your favorite book you ever narrated. She's trying to see something.
I'm trying to see some. Man, let me think. That's I can't say I got a favorite, man. That's not fabulous because there's so everything is so almost everything is so good. uh, let's see. Let me think. I'll I'll say I'll be the one by T Land. It's kind of up there. If I had to rank or say what my favorite T Land is like, because again, I tell people all the time, and again, when I started doing her work, I was just getting into it. Well, I shouldn't say. By the time I got to her work, I had done a few books already, and I was like, man, if I had, just mind you all, in the beginning, every time up, I thought it was my last book. Like I was like, it's a wrap. I ain't doing no more. They don't even like me like that. So I ain't, I ain't gonna get no more books, right? And so by the time I got to T Lynn stuff, I had done enough things, right, to feel a little bit more confident. And like just just reading her work, right, and just kind of narrating that, I feel like I was putting me on. You know what I'm saying? Right? Just like that, that intelligent thug. You know what I'm saying? You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? Right? You know what I mean? Like I aspire to be. Like I don't got the thug part. I'm intelligent. I just ain't got the thug part in me. So I got to be that in that book, man. So, but yeah, like T Lynn is dope. Casey Mills, obviously, B Love up there is crazy. Love Belvin. The Divorcee Time was really dope. Mia, really, that was a really great story, and how she closed it out. I ain't gonna spoil it for nobody, but how she closed that out, really great. But there's so many, man. I feel bad not saying names because I can't say everybody's name. But yeah,
Right.
those are some of my favorite. Love Belvin, I think I said her. But yeah, there's so many great ones out there for sure.
Well, before I get to the next question, I do have one more question. Uh, who is one author that you have not had the opportunity to work with that you would like to work with in the future?
That's another hard question, right? You know what I mean? I mean, who? I want to work with everybody. You know, let me think. I don't know.
Can I say one?
Who?
Alexandria. For me, Alexandria House.
Okay.
I
Make it happen. All right.
I you know what? I am going to her house party in 2 weeks. And after I get done telling her how much I love her, ugly crying and hugging her for another like additional 10 seconds, I'm gonna tell her, hey, get Midnight Michael on one of your books. Because I think her male characters will like fit perfectly with your voice.
Um, I would say I met this gentleman at Indie Love, and I found out he was he was a music producer, and and he raps a little bit too. You know what I mean? We have rap. I had got these loop dreams, rap dreams. Nori and Love. I would like to actually do some stuff for him. In both lanes. Narrate for him and also work with him on the music tip as well. So that'd be cool. But yeah,
Okay.
I mean, again, I'm down to work with anybody and everybody. Um, and so just holler at me, man. I can do. You know me. I got range. Amen.
Okay, let me go into the next question. Okay, so my good sis, Charlie May, she probably gonna cuss me out for calling her Charlie May on live. Uh, she would like for you to say, "Good evening, Charlie. How are you?" But I want you to say, "Charlie, your pressing curl is fire." So whichever one you want her to say, I mean, whichever one you want to say, it does not matter.
Hey Charlie, what's going on? You doing all right? You doing all right tonight? Where you at? I can't. I don't even see you on the joint. But yeah, I love you.
Here she go right here. Okay, so the next question I got from Instagram is, what book made you feel the most awkward reading it and why?
So I don't do I don't do awkward. There a few things I don't do. I don't do awkward. I don't do embarrassed. I don't do jealous. None of that stuff, right? So it's rare that something content wise will make me feel awkward or whatever anxious or whatever. It's not the content. It's how the content is written, right? So it's like sometimes it's like, yo, what are you trying to say right here? So the one thing I feel is anger because it's like I'm having to edit, shape the structure of sentences for a lot of books. For some books, the entire book. You know what I'm saying? And that's frustrating, right? That's the word I'll go to. It's frustrating, and so excuse me, it makes us appreciate really, the really good writers, right? Who have us, who set us up really well, so we can just perform and not have to, stop ourselves and figure out what we're going to say before we say it, and from a grammatical standpoint, if that makes sense. But yeah, nothing. I've never really gotten awkward. Um, nah, I'm good with everything for the most part. Yeah, that I've done. Yeah.
Okay, so another question: what does his eating what hold on, what do he eat to maintain his voice? It's a very interesting question.
What's the family network? Um, I a lot of try to stay hydrated more than anything else. And I'm trying to get back in the gym. I haven't done that, but I'm working on getting back in the gym. I think those are the things that it's stamina wise. Um, it's all that's what it really boils down to, right? You know what I mean? Because some of these sentences, be really crazy. I mean, it's like an obstacle course, right? And so breathing is very important. So endurance, right? So I try to eat and you know I guess hydrate for that, whatever the case may be. There's nothing in particular I eat, but it's just like I try to be conscious of, having a good diet and good workout routine before as we get into this stuff. What's up, Jasmine? How you doing?
Okay, so which, if any, characters have stuck with you for good or bad reasons?
Hmm. Uh, Parrish. I forget his last name, but Parrish in the Summertime Shootout series by Brianne Denay. Young dude, street life, loved it. Like that whole family, like that whole cast of characters, right, was really dope. But yeah, he really stuck out to me from the standpoint of he could have been something different, right? He could have been something, and again, he's not unique in this, right? But he could have been something different, right? From a legitimacy standpoint, a legal standpoint, had he been in a different environment. But he was raised a certain way. Really smart dude, really courageous. Don't give a F attitude. Can I cuss on here? Because I've been
Yeah,
trying to
go
be.
ahead. Mhm.
You ain't got to
Go
get
ahead.
a don't give a fuck attitude. You know what I mean? So, but he was really mature, right? He was really mature for his age. And I think he was ready to take a lot of next steps that, his leadership, we'll call it, didn't wasn't ready for him to take. So, but yeah, I really love Paris in that summertime shootout series that I had a chance to do for Brianne Denay. Shout out to Brianne. What up, though?
Okay. Okay, so everyone that's in the comments, if you would like to ask Midnight a question, now is your opportunity right now. And while you all are thinking about your questions and typing them, I am going to share an exclusive on Covers and Pages podcast. Okay. So, Midnight is getting ready to launch his Patreon. Yes, y'all, his Patreon. Okay. Burn, 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 burn. So, I want to know firsthand what type of content you all would like for him to post. You can send me a DM on my Instagram and I will talk to his people and they will work with all that feedback and get y'all some really good content posted on Patreon. Now, with that being said, because I know y'all like free stuff, okay? I am giving away one free audiobook credit of a book that Midnight has narrated from Libro.fm, and I will announce the winner at the end of this recording before we stop. But also, if you DM Midnight on his Instagram, okay, DM Midnight on his Instagram and say, quote, Midnight, I want to subscribe to your Patreon. The first person that DM Midnight and his Instagram is at around midnight and say, quote, Midnight, I want to subscribe to your Patreon, you will win something nice. I
fifty
don't know what that
bucks.
nice
It's gonna be
is.
$50. I got $50 for y'all because I really
Okay, come on.
appreciate. I really
Listen,
appreciate all y'all.
$50 can go a long way.
Yeah.
Some gas.
Yeah. No, it's just So we're we believe that the give back is a big part of what we do, right? It's not just about us climbing that proverbial ladder to get to the next level. It's about bringing people along with us. What I'm saying, and building more ladders so we can all grow in a parallel fashion, right? And so yeah, it's all about giving back and making sure that people know that we see them, understand, and appreciate everything um, that everyone is doing. Whether it's like I said, the authors, the listeners, the content creators, etc. Right? There's a space for everybody out here, and I love everybody who participates in those spaces in a real big way.
Okay. Okay, we have a question
Okay.
from Miss Crystal. She wants to know, do you prefer recording novellas or full-length books?
I was just thinking about that the other day. Um, and I think it's full length, to be quite frank. Because I always say, like, doing audiobooks, it's one of the hardest things to do as a voice actor slash narrator, but it allows me to be myself for the longest period of time. And having I guess full autonomy over a book by myself without having to consider another narrator. Again, I love working with co-narrators. Don't get me wrong, but just having that autonomy, right, just to make decisions that won't affect anybody else, um, is dope, right? Because I can explore, right? I can get my Puerto Rican accent on if I want to, and mess that up, you know, in a significant way. But I try, right? And but yeah, the full length, solo joints, I really appreciate those. Probably more than the dual narrations.
So for books that do have maybe a line that's in another language, how do you prep, or how do you handle that? So do you maybe go on like Google Translate and kind of just practice it over and over?
I'm a natural. No, I'm playing.
Come on, natural. I told you, stop acting like you not the Midnight Michael.
No,
Like,
it's in some instances, right? You know, I draw on think. For example, I just did Love's Encroachment for Love Belvin, and there was a early in the book. I had the opportunity to break up my French real quick, and you know, I did it right. And again, I was looking on Google Translate, but I took French in high school, right? And I got all A's in that joint. You know, I was like, I'm nice, right? So I seen that, I was like, oh, here we go, right? I was great, and I did it, right? And I was like, that's pretty cool. But I didn't. So the one, I don't know, I say drawback of doing so much work in this area. It's like you get through things and you just submit it, right? You don't always listen to it, right? With for enjoyment, I guess. We're listening to it for goodness, right, and quality. And so when it came out, my wife downloaded it or whatever, and she played me the sample, and I started speaking French. I was like, man, that sounds really good, man. I'm really good at that. I need to start doing more French stuff. You know what I'm saying? But no, when it comes to different dialects and different languages, yeah, there's a lot of study that goes into it. Particularly like Latin, the Latin tongue, that kind of thing. Just making sure that we're clean on that when I try to do it. Right? I'm not. Shout out to Ari Nash. She's really she's crazy talented when it comes to like creating. So I study her a little bit. We did a book together for Be Love like last year, and I was like, because I had to edit it while I was listening. I was like, man, is she part Spanish or something? Because she's nice when it comes to the dialect. So I study other narrators too, just so y'all know. I do pay attention, but yeah, so and I learn a lot from so many people. So yeah, a lot of study goes into it, a lot of practice, but so that we can stay true and honor the integrity of what's written in that language for sure.
okay, Jasmine would like to know, what events are you attending next year?
We're gonna go back to be Black Romance. Um, in that May,
Oh!
yeah.
Sorry, y'all. Turn your headphones down.
And we're gonna do Indie Love again, and I'm gonna try to do one more. I'm not sure exactly which one yet, but for sure those two. But yeah, maybe I think Chicago has one, DC has one that I'm thinking about looking into. I know the Carolinas have a lot of stuff going on. Shout out to North and South Carolina, all my authors over there. Y'all are crazy. Oh, I'm doing M Monique starting something next year that I'm going to. She asked me to be a part of that as well, so I'll be going to that one in August of next year. I can't think of the name of it
Okay.
right now, but yeah,
Do you enjoy doing narration, and what does the process look like for you?
it depends on who I'm working with. Because some people I have to fight with. No, I'm playing. No, it's all good. No, it's really simple, man. It's really simple because, like I said earlier, we try not to take ourselves too seriously when it comes to this. So we come together on certain things, right? Because with me, right, it's not like I necessarily have to understand what a female narrator is doing with her voice because chances are I'm not going to get there, right? You can give me a sample, right? And I'm going to try to get as close as I can to what you're doing without sounding too over the top, for sure. But it's you know, I just think the collaborative approach, right? Communicating via email and calls, whatever the case may be, just to make sure we're on the same page, energy wise, and that's the key. Making sure that energy is good. And I say all the time, like people that I worked with before, like Lauren Nichols, Alex Monroe, Lacey Laurel, like I know them. You know what I'm saying? So I know what I'm getting on the other side of the interface, the other side of the relationship. So it's easy to work with people like that. People that I'm not familiar with, it's a little bit more challenging, but I love it though, just to kind of establishing that line of communication and make sure that we're on the same page.
Who is a narrator that you would want to work with on a project? And why is it Mouse? No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, I think, God, I feel like I work with almost everybody for real. Not I should say everybody because there's so many people out there, but I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. It would be great to do an ensemble with like a lot of these, because I did. God, what's the name of the book? The Family.
The Family Business by Carl
Yeah,
Weber.
yeah. So I did book 7 in that, and that was an ensemble cast, but I didn't know who all was in it. I would want to put some like be the executive producer or something like that, and bring all the voices together so that we can do something like that. But it would be certainly Miles, you know, Winston, everybody, man, Winston, you know, Jacoby, Wesley, um, Alex, you know, just everybody that I love, like trying to get them in on something, or just a series of things that we can all do together collaboratively, and just make it dope, you know. But yeah, it's you know, like I said, I think I work with a lot of everybody I work with is pretty great, you know what I'm saying. But like I said, I work with pretty much everybody that we, you know, the names, if you will, right? But I, anybody, anybody out there, I'll go to bat for any day for sure.
Okay, so before we wrap up, everyone, I am going to show you all two commercials that Midnight has mentioned
What?
that he narrated for
Who made
those
you
of
do
you
this?
who
Who made you do this?
the producer, and her name is Sharice. Like you gonna have to talk to her.
All right.
I heard she a bitch though, but
Dang.
don't tell her I said that.
Okay.
But oh, hold on, we have one more question. Do you think the process with narration could be overwhelming sometimes?
It's only overwhelming, like I said, from a scheduling perspective, because sometimes you know it can be a little that can be a little overwhelming, like knowing that okay, once I finish this book, I ain't got time to I ain't got a day. I got to go right into this next book to stay on schedule, right? Because the worst thing to be is behind schedule, right? When it comes to producing these things on our end, because there's no relief, right? There's no a lot of times there's no relief, right? Because our weeks are you know packed for the most part. So when we fall behind, that's when the pressure comes in, you know, because we start hearing from the publishers, the authors, like, yo, you was really good, you know, and we don't want to be in in that situation. So that's when the pressure comes in.
Okay. All right, y'all. Like I mentioned, I'm about to show y'all two of his voiceover commercials that he has done, and here is the Circle water bottle commercial.
What is Circle? Circle is the fuel you need to take flight. Circle is your frosted treat with a sweet kick of confidence. Circle is the energy that gets you to the next level. Circle is what you hope for when life tosses lemons your way. Circle is your gateway back home. So what is Circle? It's your water, your way. Finally, water is your favorite beverage. Try Circle today.
All right, and here goes the Popeyes commercial.
Water your way.
Come on, love that chicken from Popeyes.
I love that.
Yes, 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 yes. Well, before we close out, please let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
I mostly hang out on IG at around midnight, and on TikTok I'm over there sometimes lurking, just at Midnite Michael. But yeah, hit me up. You know what I mean? I love to communicate with everybody, and it's fun, man. I'm just a regular dude who just who really appreciates an opportunity, right? To be in this light. So yeah, just we can talk. Just holler at me for sure.
Awesome, awesome. And before we leave, I do have a giveaway winner of the audiobook credit. Had some people working behind the scenes and they chose a winner. So, congratulations to Miss Crystal. Send me a DM so I can get you that audiobook credit of whatever book that Midnight has narrated. That is on Libro.fm. Now, everything may not be on Libro.fm, but whatever is on Libro.fm that he has narrated, send me a DM, send me the book and your email, and I will get that over to you, honey bun. Outside of that, is there anything else you would like to add that we did not discuss?
No, but I will say that. Oh, I'm sorry. Shout out to my wife. She's been
Hey,
amazing.
shout out to my girl.
Kari, aka y'all might know as Mrs. Midnight.
Mrs. Midnight.
But she's been amazing in all of this. I wouldn't be here without her for sure, because she planted the seed. But yeah, love her to death. But I do have a winner as well. And so, drum roll, please.
Hold on, I actually got a drum roll. Here we go.
It's Crystal G underscore. I mean, it's Crystal underscore G. Is that Crystal again?
Yes, that's the same Crystal.
Okay. Congratulations, Crystal. Just DM me your Cash App and I get that to you.
Come on, Crystal. You the one twice.
Doubled up. That's what's up. I ain't even mad at it. Got the book and the money.
Listen, okay? Everyone, thank y'all so much for tuning in to Covers and Pages podcast. This was amazing. Thank you.
I'm sorry about my delay over here. I don't even know what's going on with my connection, but I hope I didn't throw people off too much.
But they said they heard you. And in film school, they taught us, as long as the audio is good, people won't even care about the video.
Well, I appreciate that. And let me say this, everybody. Rese Alisa, hey man, is truly an amazing spirit. Like I said, we got to meet her in person, and from the point of connection, right? The energy's been high. You know what I mean? And you do a great job at everything that you do, and just keep it up. We're proud of
you,
especially over here at this house. We're proud of you. We thank you for everything you're pouring into us, and opportunities that you're giving us. So we certainly plan to pay that back a millionfold. So just keep going, keep grinding. We love it, and we're so proud of you.
Thank you. Shout out to the Midnites. They are my favorite. They are my favorite people in the world. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. Follow me, follow Midnite. We done. Right. And to everyone that's listening to the replay, thank y'all for tuning in. And y'all enjoy this nice outro that the Midnite Michael has done for us. Thank y'all.
Bye, y'all.
That's a wrap on this chapter of the Covers and Pages podcast. If you loved today's conversation, don't forget to follow, rate, and share the podcast with your fellow book lovers. You can also find us on Instagram at Covers and Pages Podcast. Follow the host at resealisareads on social media. Until next time, keep reading, keep listening, and keep turning those pages.